So I'm going to go ahead and remove the TH400 transmission out of this 1970 Cadillac. So the same transmission and the same process can be used on the 68, 69, 70, all the way to 1976. So all those Cadillacs have exactly the same transmission. The older Cadillacs, they have the same transmission, but the setup is a little bit different. But the process is pretty much the same. What I'm going to be using in regards to tools, I'm going to be using a socket set, a couple wrenches, and a hammer, probably a couple screwdrivers, and that's pretty much it. You don't need anything special to do this job. You don't have to pay an arm and a leg to get somebody else to do it for you. You can pretty much do this job at home, in your driveway, in your backyard, whatever you want to do. You do want to use something, put some rags or a piece of plastic underneath the car, because you are going to have a little bit of fluid that's going to spill, but it's just a little bit, nothing crazy. Okay, once you have something on the floor to keep the oil from dripping all over the place, the next thing is going to be to remove the drive shaft. To remove the drive shaft, you have 4 bolts. The 4 bolts are in the back over here. Right there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the drive shaft from the transmission. And there's the transmission up. And when you, so all I gotta do is just pull the drive shaft out. What you want to do is make sure you kind of put your hand on here, because you don't want to like scratch that up. It doesn't really, it's gonna be fine, but it's just good to not destroy parts while you're removing them. Ah, shit. There we go. So next we have to remove this this brace, and to do that there's 4 bolts on the side. Let's see if we can knock these out real quick. Once I get these 4 nuts out of there, I'm going to go ahead and support the transmission, pull the brace out. And the way I'm going to support it is going to be by putting the jack underneath it and just jacking it up, just so I can get this thing out of the way. Okay, so now what I'm going to go ahead and do is, now that this brace is disconnected, so we removed the 2 nuts on each side, so the 4 nuts that hold the brace up there. Now I'm going to start disconnecting all the different plugs and the linkage. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the switch here. That's it. That's one thing. Next, we're going to disconnect the vacuum line back here. Okay, so it doesn't want to move, that's fine. And then we're going to disconnect these 2 transmission lines. We're going to remove that bolt. So this is the dipstick. We're gonna remove the bolt that's right up there. That holds the dipstick in place. And just so we don't destroy that. And finally, we're gonna disconnect the linkage. And the linkage is right there. To remove that, all you have to do is pull this cotter pin that sits right there. I've already removed the cotter pin, then you just pull this out. That kind of gets out of the way. And you can do it a couple different ways. You can remove the bolt or the nut there and it'll just slide out. Or you can remove this. We'll probably just go ahead and do it from there. It'll be easier. When you remove these bolts, you want to make sure that you put them back in the same place so you don't lose them. Don't forget about that. That's the speedometer cable right there. So make sure you don't forget about the speedometer cable. So that's one. Now we gotta get them all out. Okay, that one had the bracket that was holding the cable, the wire loom right there. And then the next one's gonna be holding the dipstick. So right over here. And then I'll be doing the same thing on the other side, and then I'll get them all out, and then we should be able to drop the tranny. So at this time, you also want to put something on the bottom of the tranny to support it so it doesn't fall on top of you, and you know, life's not gonna be fun if that happens. But it's okay. Oh yeah. And very important, don't forget to remove these lines. These lines are very simple to remove. I'm gonna wait a little bit. To remove them. I'll make a little more progress, and I'll be using one of these type of wrenches just to make sure I don't damage the line. Okay. Once the bolts are disconnected on this side of the transmission, you can remove the dipstick by wiggling it out. There's usually an O-ring down here that kind of seals it, and so you just have to wiggle it out and it'll come out. It looks like I'm having a little bit of a hard time here from the bottom, so I'll just do it from the top. You don't want to mess this up, so take your time with it. So once you get that out of the way, you're pretty much done for this side of the transmission, except for those two lines. On the other side, I'll be doing the same thing. See, there's one bolt that I already loosened, and then up top you'll see the other bolts should be right there, and then another one right over there. It's hard for me to see them, where I'm at, but they're right there. Okay, so to remove the starter, you're gonna have to disconnect the cables. So that's, you have a couple of cables here. You have this is your main power cable running from the battery, and then there should be one starter and one ground. I think they're right there. Okay, so right there, 1 and 2, and then that one. Once you get those two out, then the next thing is you disconnect these 2 bolts, or you pull these 2 bolts out. When you remove those two bolts out, the starter will drop. So that's the starter and the shim one right there. So there you go, the transmission's out of the car. So that's the TH400, and pretty much a good transmission. And as you can see, something unique about these transmissions is the long tail, and that's really the big difference between the TH400 on a Cadillac and you know, a car or a truck. The tail of the TH400 on the Caddies is going to be a little bit longer, has a long tail housing. I did try getting the dipstick out, but man, that thing was kind of stuck in there, so it had to come out with the transmission. So now that the transmission is nice and clean, now it's time to go get the rebuild kit to, you know, rebuild it. And there's a couple places where you can get the rebuild kit. My favorite place is gonna be Home Depot. I think they sell the best assortment of rebuild kits, and you know, let's see if we can make this happen. So for the rebuild kit, you can use a couple different things. You can use Amco Blue. You can use a high performance transmission gloss black, or you can use the silver, which is, you know, the classic silver. And well, those are the best options, or you can go something custom, but that's pretty much what we have right now. And this stuff was like $6 each. That's way too expensive for tranny fluid.